This is Pro Wrestling Illustrated, a love letter to independent wrestling from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I am one of your hosts, PWI Editor-in-Chief, Kevin McElvaney. With me here, as always, the Good Witch, the Divine Darling, the Conduit of Karma, the Batch Baddie? Is that a thing now?
I don't know. I thought it would be cute because I made that set of gear. It was, long
Good.
story short, I'm a Star Wars nerd. It was Bad Batch inspired. I was like, but what if it was girls? What if we were like the baddie batch and we were all baddies? Are we baddies?
It sounds good to me. My Star Wars knowledge is very limited. So okay. Like I'm not the best.
It's just like another one of my hyper fixations, like wrestling. It's fine.
Sure. But we're joined by a very, very special guest here today, who I think I'm going to leave it to you to introduce our guest today, Kaia, because I'm very excited to talk to her.
Yes. Well, we were going to chat today on this episode a little bit about some of the independent wrestling shows that happened over WrestleMania weekend. And to do that to the most effective, full extent, we have decided to invite our WrestleMania week correspondent, Val Pancakes, to go over that with us.
Hello.
She is our queen. We love Val. She is host of The Stack. Maybe you've seen her out there in the podcast world, but she is a wonderful supporter of independent wrestling. And we are honored to have you here today, Val.
Make me blush. I'm just so thrilled I get to, come on here and chat with you. I've known Kaia for several years now, I think. And I was just able to meet Kevin this past Mania weekend. So very excited.
It was so good seeing you in person. Finally, it was, it's been, people, how did you put it, inside your phone,
Yeah, people that live in my phone.
Yeah. And then you meet in person and, it's a good feeling. And it was, again, great to see you. I saw you a few times throughout the weekend. We'll talk about some of those shows. But you really did attend like a nice variety of the many, many independent shows that go on over WrestleMania weekend. And for people who are tuning in regularly to this podcast, I don't think this is such a strange concept, but for more casual wrestling fans, this whole idea that someone would go to the host city of WrestleMania, not really worry about attending WrestleMania, which I did. Were you at either of the WrestleMania shows? Saturday?
Absolutely not.
Okay, right. And this it's an increasingly common thing. And I mean, I know Righteous Reg from the magazine, he was there as well, and same deal, just like, oh, I'm not worried about going to WrestleMania. I'm there for all the other stuff. So could you talk a little bit about that experience going as a fan and just taking in everything else there is to offer and some of the things that you specifically came to Philadelphia for?
Yeah. So this has been my 4th Mania weekend now.
Wow.
So I went to Tampa, Dallas, LA, and then this year. I've never gone to WrestleMania any of those years. I went to WrestleMania once, 2017. It was a fine experience. No desire to ever do that again. So I'm so fortunate that I am able to go to just a host of indie shows. I think I went to like 10 full shows and then bits and pieces of others. So as traveling back and forth and all that, especially with Ubers, you get to places when you get there and go with the flow. But I was able to go to a few of the GCW sponsored shows. I went to a bunch of the shows at H2O, and I even went to a couple of other shows that were out in kind of other places because there's so much indie wrestling on Mania weekend. And especially in Philly, where there's a lot of wrestling anyway, in that kind of area, it was delightful.
It was something like 55 shows or maybe even more than that over the course.
Is that the final count? I would believe that.
And that's not even getting into all the non-wrestling, convention type events, comedy shows, art shows, fashion shows, all this other stuff. So there's no shortage of stuff to do. And
I heard there was a magic show somewhere.
Yeah, Nigel McGuinness did a magic show.
Right,
I did see that, and I was like, wow, this is really incredible. I wish I would have gone to it. I would love to go to that. He does it quite frequently. I've seen him post a couple. He has a whole Instagram for his magic. Segue. But yes, I would love to go to one of those one time.
I mean, if you have the money and the means and you can get to everything, better person than I. I wish I like, and that's the other
But
thing.
you would have to clone yourself, like, because there are conflicts. Like, it's something's just
So
completely.
you clone yourself now, and you just keep all the Val clones in their little tubes in your kitchen, and then when WrestleMania week comes, you recant all of them and give them their specific assignments.
There you
Like,
go.
I was a little frustrated because, like, I'm a large woman. Like, I could easily be 3 people. Like, why can't I be 3 people? This isn't fair.
I know how you feel. I ask myself that question all the time. Like, there's enough of me to go around. Just need the atom splitter or whatever it is. You know?
Right? Yeah. Figure it out. It's 2024.
Come on, yeah. Jetpacks and that in whichever order.
Right. Teleportation. If I get that, that would be really dope.
The teleportation would be the big thing for WrestleMania week, just like to click your heels and just be where you need to be. Because to your point earlier, the Ubers and the traffic in a city like Philly, because Northeast cities are just a little more congested in general. And
you do have to cross the Jersey border to get to the H2O shows and the Monster Factory shows. And, so it's not everything. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if we can figure out for next year, wherever Mania happens to be, if we can figure out teleportation, that would be really great. Thanks.
It'd be so great. I will start working on it now. I will put my magic powers to good use.
I have faith in you.
Somebody has to do it. I mean, like, if we're not going to be able to do it scientifically, then make with the spells already.
Oh my God, I'm working on it. Magic don't work that way, like that.
No. Right. Right.
I don't know how it feels about your intention being laziness, but we'll see how it is.
My intention is being supportive.
How about efficiency?
That too.
Environmentally friendly, less carbon emissions from the Ubers.
Right. So
going to all these shows that you attended, were there any moments or any shows that really stuck out to you as being unique or special?
Of course, always Big Gay Brunch for its focus on queer talent. Always For the Culture for its focus on, the Black athletes, which is fantastic. Love those shows. 2 of my favorite shows of the weekend, always. I really liked at H2O, they had a little bit more of a focus on some deathmatch shows, which I enjoy. So it was good to see that variety. But then you had shows like Action Dean, which sort of had like a little bit of everything. As far as they had a pretty brutal match with Mad Dog Connolly, with that dog collar match, and then they followed it up with like one of the best technical wrestling matches I've probably ever seen and ever will see in my life, with Timothy Thatcher versus Daniel McCabe. Like, how can you be upset about that? You just can't.
It was such a blend of stuff on that show. It was really like something for everybody.
It's something that I really enjoyed because I miss that in wrestling sometimes, is that true variety show aspect where there are so many different like flavors of ice cream in the bowl.
Yeah, it's like a true like ice cream sundae where it's like, I got a little bit of everything. I also
send a Mad Dog to the junkyard. That's my question. When's he going down to Zona?
Right? That match was nuts.
It was nuts.
I also went to there was a bar that was doing shows, and I went to one of those. There was like a group out of Pittsburgh area that came and did some shows, and that was really fun because that was more people that I just haven't been able to see in person, because of where I live and where I lived.
Was that the 880 show?
Yeah, the 880 one.
Okay. Where did they have? Do you remember the bar by chance?
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
There were so many venues. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a picture of like some of these places I've been to before like, I think, did Circle 6 have a show? Like, Circle 6 had a show, I think. Or
they ran at FDR Skate Park, which was wild.
Was that where they were? There was a show.
I was really kind of upset that I didn't get a chance to swing by that, because I just love how they are so good at finding these unconventional venues and just having this party type wrestling show.
I was gonna say, who had the show at the Fire? Because that's a small, like, basically punk venue. But it's like it's a functional dive bar. Like, I've seen so many shows there, and I can't even imagine.
I feel like I remember seeing this. I feel like we should know this.
Yeah.
We'll have to shout it out. We'll tweet it out, and we're gonna look it up.
Yeah, that's fine. It's too much to keep track of. But anyway, yeah, Val. So you what else? I mean, you saw 10, so we've heard like 3 or 4, I think. So 10 full ones.
Yeah, went
Some highlights.
my WrestleMania weekend, if you can call it that, because it really started on Wednesday for me.
It's the week.
And it really is at this point. It truly has built itself into a full week's worth of shows if you really want to go and do it. I ended up at the Intergender Bonanza show on Wednesday, which was super exciting for me. I have liked those shows for a while, and it was fun to be able to see one. And then I went to one of the Sean Henderson Presents shows the next day. I went to Euphoria, lasted till intermission before I had to book it out to my next show. So I get to the 880 show, and then went from 880 with good friend Brian Bell. Traffic was insane. Made it to Dean. And then I went to ICW the next day. I went to the For the Culture show, and then I went to Big Gay Brunch. When that was over, I booked it back to H2O. I caught the last 2 matches of WrestleMania, which was so fun. And I, if there was ever a time where I wanted to split myself into 2 people, like that was it. Like those 2 shows.
I mean, me too. I've never been to a brunch before. I've also never been to For the Culture before. And while I could have technically gone to For the Culture, my day started at like 7 a.m. the next morning. And I'm like, this is not going to be good if I need to. I've never run a show before. And, anyway, but thank you for coming for the last couple of matches. Yeah,
I remember that. I was cleaning up one day at the brunch in Chicago. I remember that. It was like. God, what was it with that one? It was like the pandemic wasn't over yet, but it hadn't like gone back to normal. It was like that weird period. So it was like hard to get catering. And I remember that was when Effie was like, fuck it. We're just going to have like this crazy McDonald's catered brunch bar. And we just made it happen. And I remember that. I remember the breakfast burritos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Pollo, and probably a host of others. I think she said that she went to like Sam's Club and just bought out like all of like the like prepackaged like breakfast like treats and stuff.
Yeah, they always. I love that they always have like the brunch aspect covered, and it's not actually just in the name for shits and giggles. Like it's truly a brunch, and they always try to do something brunch related for food at those shows. I think that's
fun. That was that one in Chicago was very strange because you're right. It was like that like transitional time where it was still the pandemic, but not quite the pandemic. And I think it was really when people started getting comfortable again about going out and doing things even while masking. And I think people were ready just to do things again.
What was your favorite match at the brunch this year? Because Effie always books such an interesting card. Like it's very, very creative, and I just love seeing what he comes up with.
You know, for me, I'm a huge fan of the Runway. I love the Runway. And then to see them against Jamie
Edith was, I think.
Yes, right? I can picture this.
It's so much. I only know this because I wrote a photo caption like earlier today. Otherwise, yeah.
Yes, and that I remember that match was so much fun because I just love like the Runway because they do goofy heel stuff. I love goofy heel stuff. Mm-hmm. That is too near and dear to my heart. And Jamie and Edith are both so fun and just so much fun to watch and such good wrestlers. It was just a very different take on that kind of dynamic. Also really enjoyed because Karam was supposed to go against Max, and then Max I think got COVID or something. So I had no idea who he was facing until music hit, and I was like, oh, we're getting Trish Adora? Okay, yeah, bet. No. And I don't think that the people around me got what was going on because I popped really hard and nobody else did. And I was like, you'll find out. It's fine. You'll find out.
I remember seeing clips of that match on Twitter too, and it looked like it was really, really fun. Like they had a lot of fun with the dynamics. So I love to see stuff like that.
Yeah, I really like those brunch matches. They are just a lot of fun. And I love seeing, LGBTQ talent. So.
And did you do the ETU show at
I did do the ETU show.
Yeah, that was a loaded card too.
Yeah.
That was I'm not as familiar with a lot of the like Dragon Gate wrestling. So a lot of that was really new to me, but in a way that I really enjoyed kind of broadening my horizons on that type of wrestling. And I got to see, again, a bunch of people I'd never seen before in person, which made me really happy.
Yeah. And I think from my conversation, so I mean, the Thrashelvania show that I put on, there were 2 Dragon Gate wrestlers on it, and then surprised Ben Kay as a manager, which I did not even know was going to happen, but I'm like, yes. But just from my conversations with them, which were brief because they speak some English and I speak 0 Japanese, it seemed like they had a really good time, especially like with working a small room like that. Like, you know, and I mean, it could be completely packed out and it's still smaller crowds than they will wrestle in front of most times in Japan. So, you know, with the ETU show, that's a really interesting and fun dynamic to get those guys in there and have them against, you know, some of the tri-state area wrestlers, because a lot of the ETU shows really are, it tends to be some of the same people, you know, who work there regularly, and there is like a roster of sorts. So that was cool.
Yeah, ETU feels a lot like, I don't want to say like a true indie to me, but like where they do kind of keep the like fly-ins or like whatever to more of a minimum, which I enjoy.
Which we had been talking about off air a little bit. I mean, Action's another great example of that. And obviously the Dean show is a little bit more star-studded, taking advantage of the environment, but also with it being a tribute show to Dean Rasmussen, had, you know, people who Dean would have wanted to see, who were, you know, like international wrestlers and things. But if you look at the average Action show, you have people who regularly work.
Though, even on Dean, you had a lot of the mainstays.
They did. Yeah. But, you know, but like, okay, so even like the people that are being brought in, like, hi, you'll work at Action and you're being brought in, but like you're kind of a regular, you know, like people.
Maryland is kind of cool because it's like, is it Northeast? Is it Southeast? It could be both.
Could be, yeah.
It's literally smack in the middle. But I really liked seeing that when we went to Dean, that the card was just so diverse and that there were people that were there specifically for that show, but there was also the Good Hand and the Coven, and Jaden Newman was there, and Adam Priest, of course, wrestled. It's just all the mainstays that you see down to Action were also very present on that card. So it was kind of cool to see them bring their show up to the Northeast for WrestleMania week.
I agree. And that's part of what puts that show different than, you know, some of the other shows, because you're not seeing the same shuffled group of people on every show.
No, they keep it fresh. Speaking of, like, how cool was it to see Slim J wrestle on that show, right? Like, what a treat. And he killed it.
That was an absolute delight. I am relatively new to Slim J, but I very much enjoyed it. I was very taken. So
yeah, again, just really worked the room, and like very athletic, hard hitting, and a guy who goes back many years, very influential in the contemporary indie style. So after that ETU show, like, were there any other shows on the docket for you? Did you?
Yeah, I had a couple other ones. Ended up actually going to eat something that day. That was nice. I got to have food.
That's a plus.
Not every day.
You have to be able to do it at some point, or you can't keep going to shows.
Right. Because I had a good break after ETU before am I allowed to swears? Because clusterfuck. It was a clusterfuck show. So that was that was a true delight. It was a good way to really kind of cap off almost a weekend. I did have another show the next day after that at H2O, which was that Ruthless Pro, and it was a whole deathmatch show. So that was the whole thing. But that clusterfuck show really did feel like the end party of WrestleMania weekend.
Who are your top 3 clusterfuck entrants this year?
Oh man,
there were a lot of good ones. I had a blast watching that. Like, it was just so nice to actually get to like take it in this year. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, you can't not mention Nate Webb.
Always. We love Spider Nate Webb.
That entrance, I mean, everyone was just
even during the clusterfuck, he still does the full entrance.
Right? He takes the time, works the room, and like to sit there and see everyone just enjoying it, and it kind of like it just really just lifted the room. Everyone was into it, having a good time, except for maybe Philly Mike. He was a little scared, but here nor there. That was probably just fun, just sing along, like party. It was interesting to see people like, of course, like Microman or somebody like that, where it's not somebody that they would necessarily normally bring in, although a little bit more now.
Yeah, actually, GCW has been kind of using him a lot, but
yeah.
He had a match with Brandon Kirk. I can't remember which GCW show it was. It was a recent one. Maybe it was their last one in Atlantic City, but it was spectacular.
I mean, and he kind of comes in to do like a comedy match, but like people love him, so like why are you not gonna keep using him? And then obviously he's in that very prominent role here, like taking the whole thing. So
yeah. And then who else was I like really? There was a few people that I was excited to see because that was the only
Kong was there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Taking out all the kaiju. Yeah.
Yes. Like, when in my life will I ever probably get to see Aja Kong actually like wrestle? Probably not. But at least I got to see her with my eyeballs.
Did she hit the inflatable chicken, or was that somebody else?
No, she definitely hit the inflatable chicken.
Okay.
And just there's some serious parts. It's silly. I was fortunate where I was kind of perched up. I was able this is the best part of any real multi-man large battle royal match, in my opinion, is being there in person and seeing what everyone else does around ringside that you don't get to see when it's on camera. Because I should really go back and watch it because I haven't, but Tank put on CPA's shirt and his tie on his head.
Tank was a clusterfuck champion this year. Shout out to Tank. And he was in there for a minute too.
That's hard to get Tank out of there. He's a tank.
And he was just having fun and being silly. And that's not a guy that you would think of as somebody to be silly. But just the atmosphere lent itself to that. And
I remember Emil entering the clusterfuck and then Tank being in the ring and then Emil being like, actually, I'm exiting the clusterfuck right now. That was really good. I enjoyed that.
That's an homage to somebody. Is that that happened at WrestleMania a year or so ago? I'm trying to remember who.
And then Recon was feeding the participants chicken tenders on the outside. I did see that as well.
Yeah, Rena and Monomoth.
Maybe, yeah.
And he was giving little chicken tendies, and it was so cute too because Dark Sheik and Jamie were goofing around and just sitting there
on some people, yeah,
and it was just cool to see that part of it that you don't get to see on TV because you can only show so much, but those little extra bits and pieces, that's the part that's the fun part.
Mander's drinking a beer in the chair ringside. Yeah.
Marcus Mathers, somebody had bubble guns. Marcus Mathers found one of the bubble guns and was running around with it during Nate Webb's entrance, which was a delight.
There you go.
And it was just those little things where everyone was just having a good time, and that stuff that you don't necessarily see. That's what truly, in my opinion, makes the clusterfuck fun and worth going to.
I loved Viva Vaughn's take on the Rikishi spot. I thought that was really, really clever, and she's trained by Rikishi, so that was just really cute. And man, Darius did his sell on that was so good. That was awesome. What a fun little moment. Sometimes when you're a wrestler, the challenge with a match like that is, okay, I've got 20 seconds to do something before the match moves on or the next person comes out. So it's how do you create a moment, right? And that was awesome. That was so cute.
Oh yeah, that his little faint,
and then him getting mad that someone stopped it. Yeah,
I think the clip got 1 million views.
It did. It kind of went viral.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, the funny thing, and then was it Serpentico that came in and then was the third?
I think it was Fuego.
Oh, it's Fuego.
Yeah, it was Fuego.
Confused my lower card AEW mask guys, and my apologies. It was Fuego, and I feel bad because I met Fuego over the weekend too. But I can't keep everybody straight all the time. So basically, you had those three wrestlers who were all very good, but they just this very silly thing, and that's what catches on, which I'm sure they're happy about because they didn't have to like injure themselves, to do that. And it's just like, yeah, it's a good time.
I feel like GCW has a knack for like coming up with just having a really good like clusterfuck type of match. I know that around 4th of July every year they also do a bunkhouse brawl, like the old Dusty Rhodes gimmick type deal where everybody's got to bring a weapon, and they always have fun, goofy little spots surrounding that gimmick too. That's always another one they do like halfway through the year. So
you were on that one last year.
Right? I broke a broomstick on Steve Scott's nutsack when he tried to ride it and take it away from me.
I do also I do want to give a shout out to, and Val, it's a shame you missed this match, but like you caught the last two, which are I'm very glad you saw them. But prior to intermission, Kaia and Ram Kaichal, which is the team that no one ever knew they wanted, but of course they would.
Needed so badly.
Yes. Against Ava Everett and Eva Vaughn, and it was just like this great like entertaining, fun match where everybody at the same time worked very hard. And
yeah, we did like strangely enough wrestle our asses off for it being like,
yeah, you were we went to the Spark Joshi show on Sunday over at the Monster Factory, and Kai was just saying like, oh, I'm still feeling it from yesterday. And it was just like, can you imagine like Mike Bailey working,
oh my god, no,
what did they work, 12 matches this year plus I think scripted the clusterfuck? So just
yeah, big hats off to the people who coordinated the clusterfuck. Like, I do believe
crazy.
Mike Bailey was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just, yeah, it can, I think, there's a lot to be said for adrenaline.
Yeah, you get excited. Like, you get excited and you're having a good time and you want to, and when you like the people you're in, when you really like click with the people that you're in your match with, like that just kind of further motivates you to like really do super well, because obviously like Ram is incredible and Ava and Viva are also incredible performers. So we're just out there to have a good time. Thank you for booking it, Kev.
No problem.
Hopefully LSG's still alive. I mean, his habitat's still in my car from that weekend. It's not been too hot though.
He's been tweeting, so I don't know.
I mean, there's I did give him the Wi-Fi password before I went in the house. So
that was nice.
Quite possible.
Nice. Very kind of you. So that by the way, cheap plug, that show is still available on IWTV.live, and the royalties that are generated are still going to the Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation. So if anyone hasn't watched it, they want to go back and watch it, go ahead and do so. Val, before we let you go, we want to give you a chance to plug anything you want to plug, but is there anything else from WrestleMania week that you would like to talk about that you haven't already?
No, we pretty much covered everything. Just if you get a chance to go do it, it's so much fun. Meet the people that live inside your phone. They're the best people, I promise. So fortunate to be able to travel and meet amazingly cool people like the both of you, and people that support me and help me out. I came from absolute nowhere and was so welcomed by the people in the community, and to be able to do this for the last 4 years, just absolute blessing. My life is so much richer for it. If you're on the fence about it, like, pull the trigger, go do it. You won't regret doing it. You really won't.
It's very good advice. So especially for the people who are listening to this and not watching the video, which has our handy dandy handles on the screen, could you let people know where they can support you, reach you, follow what you're doing?
I am at Val Pancakes on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I call it Twitter because I'm old. I still haven't updated the app on my phone. It's still Twitter.
Yes.
I'm at val.pancakes on Instagram. I'm pretty much Val Pancakes anywhere I want you to find me. And I do have TikTok. I simply do not really use it for any wrestling related items.
Right.
But if you want to look at my dumb collages, I suppose you can go do that. I glue paper together, so that's sort of my thing. Other than
I
that,
commissioned like a Kaia collage. That would be fun.
I mean,
One.
I could.
I love art. I love like fan art too. Like I think that's so cool.
Maybe my next collage will be like witchy themed.
Ooh.
That could be fun. That's a really good idea.
There's a lot of meat on the bone there.
And I do have episodes of my podcast that I did. The Stack with the Bald Monkeys. You can find the Bald Monkeys and the Stack on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, I do great work with Grit and Glitter, podcast that focuses on women and wrestlers of marginalized genders. At Grit Glitter Pod, I believe, on Twitter, Grit and Glitter across where you will listen to podcasts.
Yeah. And I was able to meet Harley and Emily as well for the first time.
I got to meet Harley and Emily for the first time.
Yeah.
All these people that live in our phones are just coming to life. Yeah. It's magic.
Right? Yeah. That's crazy.
Shout out to them.
Out of their phone and then jump back into their phone. I don't know.
So Kaia, what do you have to plug? This is going to come out pretty quickly, so you can plug your stuff that's coming right up this weekend. I know you have a couple matches.
Yes, this weekend I will be on, Friday I will be at WrestleMax in Columbia, Illinois, so the St. Louis area. I will be facing Shazza McKenzie for their women's championship. When I had my article in PWI, I mentioned I had never had a singles match with Shazza, so I'm very excited to finally get to stand toe-to-toe with her one-on-one. Then on the 27th in Ridgefield Park, I will be facing Vicious Vicky at Pro Wrestling Magic. So that should be a good match. I'm really excited. I have been on a million shows with Vicky. I have not wrestled her yet. So again, that's another cool box to check. The following week, let's see. I'm off for 2 weeks. My sister-in-law is potentially having a baby. So I think it's very important that you create time for those sorts of things in your life. So shout out to G, and hopefully she has a very healthy little baby boy. And then the week after that, the 18th, I will actually be making my debut at Shine in Tampa. So I'm very excited to wrestle in Florida.
Oh, wow.
And the day before that, this is a really interesting one. On the 17th, I will be challenging Clara Carreras for the Invictus Pro Women's Championship in the Bronx. I have had a title shot in Invictus for 2 years now. I won a #1 contenders match in 2021, and then I was injured, and I was never able to cash in on that opportunity. So I've been trying to finish this story for 2 years now. 2 years, right? So it is my turn to finish the witchy story here. 2 years coming. Hopefully I can pull it off. I'm training super hard for it. I'm real excited.
That is so awesome. Val, I want to thank you again so much for coming on and doing this. This is really fun. We'll have to have you on again sometime again as a correspondent, or just because we can talk about whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kaia, why don't you take us out with some words of witchy wisdom for our viewers and listeners?
Oh man, I think that something that we sometimes forget is there is a lot of power to our words. My aunt would sometimes say your words are your wands, is in which you use to cast your magic. And you can do a lot of magic with the right words. And one of the ways I try to think about this is the impact my words have on other people, and how to make sure that that impact is always positive, supportive, and uplifting. So as you travel through this next week, remember that your words are your wands, and you can do magic for others just by simply extending some kindness. So always be supportive and kind, because your words are more powerful than you'd ever realize.
Perfect.